Well, it is my pleasure to be joined by Chuck Kovach today, a leader, an expert in the academic and corporate learning space. Chuck, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you very much. It's great to talk to you, Brian.
So Chuck, tell me about your new venture, Chuck Kovach's Collaborate for Results.
You know, it really started with some very fortunate conversations I had with good relationships in my network. And the conversations were around opportunities that they brought to me for work that we could do together. And one of those people asked me what I thought was a very powerful question. That, what makes you different? I mean, I've known you for years, Chuck, and I had to think about that for a moment. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I hope you feel when we work together is that we are truly collaborating. We're doing this together. And I'm doing this with you, not for you, not to you. And that resonated in our conversation. And that's really what began the idea that the degree to which I could really help do things with people can increase the value. Now, the other part with results is, you know, as I've learned, you do have to deliver value and you do have to deliver results. And the collaboration is a means to an end, and the end is the result. So part of that title is really something that I hope communicates to the people I work with, as well as a reminder for myself.
Well, look, I have to follow up on this, this idea of not doing something to people. You're not selling or providing services to them.
Yes.
You're doing it with them. And that is a key element of what you're doing, correct?
Oh, it certainly is. You know, there's a real bias in the world of learning and education, which is the learning person is the expert, the client, and therefore they are to be taught, instructed, brought along. And believe me, there is some piece of that, but I think it leads to sometimes that clients feel like something is being done to them. So what's the real difference when you're doing with somebody to them? It's really being able to give up being the expert and really being open to the client or the person you're working with's viewpoint, being willing to be influenced and change how you might have recommended something based on the conversation that you had. When that starts to happen, trust goes up, and people then, I think, truly feel like you're collaborating, and it breaks that doing something to you.
You know, you've done some great things in the corporate space, but you're also working in the academic space. So tell me what's going on at Seton Hall.
A couple of things that we're really excited about. You know, I really believe, and we've had a lot of conversations about this, that people learning new things, being able to do new things is both more important than it's ever been and harder to accomplish than it's ever been. And those things are happening at the same time, you know, in my experience, meaning the faster things change, the more people need to learn clearly. And the faster things change, the less time and energy people have to learn new things. And so it's really led to a couple of really powerful things that I've had the privilege to do with Seton Hall. One is as a part of their MBA program, a seminar, which of course we're developing live virtual, right? Just like you and I are now, on what you really need to be and do in order to lead through a crisis.
Say that again. What you have to be and do to lead through a crisis.
Yes, both. And that's been one of the real learnings that I've had, is that there's a raging debate in the world of leadership development for as long as I can remember, is whether leaders are born or made. You might have heard it.
Right.
And what we've really found that in crisis, it's equally what you were born and what you've been able to learn and do, and those things together both have to be there. In normal circumstances, you could be one a little bit more, one or the other. So the program has really been an opportunity to work with some highly motivated students and explore things like maintaining the mission of your unit when everything's breaking loose. Mm-hmm. How do you make decisions and communicate those decisions? How do you chart a path ahead when it's so difficult to see what's happening today? So that's one of them. And the other's been some research we're doing around what it really takes to learn in a crisis, which has been fascinating for us.
Talk to me about the virtual experience. Tell me what that means to you. with your company as Collaborate for Results,
Yeah.
but also your opinion on how it affects our leadership and learning in the world.
I remember I was asked a question by one of the MBA students at the end of the session, and they typed in the chat window, "I have a question." And so we gave him the mic and he said, "What do you think about this whole move toward virtual learning? And can you really become and grow leaders in this kind of medium? I'm not sure you can." And I really thought about it for a moment, and I said, I'll tell you what I believe. And I do believe that virtual communication has really helped us accelerate something that was already happening in this world.
Yeah.
And as much as anything else, it gives the opportunity for people to connect on a much broader and more meaningful level. Now, on the other hand, Brian, it is not easy to do. So what we really tried to do is take advantage of the opportunities that virtual communication gives you to reach broader than you ever could before. I know you know that as well as anyone, the business you're in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has to be done in a very different way to be meaningful to people.
Well, look, Chuck, let's not avoid it. I mean, we're here in a pandemic. We're speaking at the end of 2020, and we are clearly in a crisis. Now, in an age of disruption, an age of crisis, tell me your 2 cents on this and how people can absorb it and learn from it.
The real reality is that despite our best efforts to learn from the crises that we experience, and you're so right, Brian, even though COVID-19 does dominate the world's attention right now, with good reason, it can be said that at any point in time, throughout the world, societies, organizations, people are facing similar crises, maybe a number of them, and despite our best efforts to learn from them, they reoccur. So the real question we're asking ourselves with the research we're doing at Seton Hall is that, how should we, or do we need to really approach learning from crisis differently to hopefully reduce, avoid, and somehow have a positive impact on the fact that they continue to recur? And we think that real difference is the willingness and ability of organizations and the people in them to truly transform.
No small task. That's a heavy lift.
It is. And what's interesting, what we're finding is that one of the real questions is transform to what degree? There are very learned people in the field who believe that an organization or the people within it or its leaders need to be willing to transform at a level of the person, how they see the world and their place in it, far beyond strategy, work procedures, even culture. And it's an open question which we're really looking to explore. Because you're right, it is it could be the heaviest of lifts, and just how extensive does it have to be to really break through on a crisis? And that's one of the questions we're so excited to try to learn some things about.
Well, these are times of change, Chuck, and you are right there at the bleeding edge, taking care of business. Chuck Kovach from Chuck Kovach's Collaborate for Results. What a pleasure seeing and speaking with you. Thanks so much, Chuck.
Brian, thank you very much, and take good care.